I'm assuming you didn't start your career with 200,000 vehicles rolling on the road. Take us back to the humble beginnings, like where you found your passion, and walk us through that experience.
Yeah, so say if I took you back, like high school, college, I always liked student government, went to an engineering school, learned how to program. I liked to program, I liked technology, and I started at a company that Ross Perot founded back in the day called EDS. I was a programmer. And what's funny is after a couple of years, they said, hey, Brennan, we really think you're good with people. Now, what I didn't ask at 23 was, does that mean I'm not good at coding? Which I really want to go back and ask them, because I think they put a period at the end of the statement, you're really good with people, when it should have been a comma, because you're not as good at coding.
Or parentheses there, yeah.
Yeah, but so then I started my leadership journey, and from there on, actually today is my 26th wedding anniversary, and I've been a president CEO now for 24 years. And really like leadership's my passion, just going into companies and helping people grow, develop, attracting good talent. Now, but the way I got to merchants, what's interesting about that is, that 10,000 person client, 10,000 fleet, that was 2009. I was actually merchant's largest client at the time.
Wow.
And then, being more from the technology side than the vehicle side, they asked me to join their board and help them build out the technology at the company. And the only warning I'd give your listeners out there is, hey, if you're a board member and you keep making lots of suggestions and you kind of bug them enough, eventually they say, hey, buddy, you think you got all the answers? You think you're so smart? Why don't you come run the place?
Right.
And then you do. Then you do, and here I am.
Super cool. It is funny, like how synonymous like leadership is with you being married for so long. Like that is a leadership role that's probably even harder.
Yeah, I would say my wife has the harder side of that journey.
Yeah. So like the reason why I asked you that is because that whole like being passionate about leadership, and leadership is so important in the workplace. It's like one of those skills and things that like when you are married and you have kids, you start taking a little bit more seriously because you understand how much it is needed and what an impact you can make.
I just took my son's a senior in high school. I took a group of his friends away, and all of a sudden asked me like, what do you do? And what should I do? And it's just neat when you start to see young kids like look to other people and say, how did you get a job? How did you decide where you were going to school? And I love those conversations, especially with young people, because if you invest in them, you can legitimately change the trajectory of a 20-year-old's life. And by the way, not with magical advice. Sometimes the advice is absolutely so basic.
It's almost always that way, right?
It is.
It's like all these great things that are so obvious that just you don't apply, right?
Yeah,
why do we do that? Why can't we take the known thing that the guru or the person that is mentoring us is telling us and just do it? Why do we have to go, no, I got to do it this way, and then I'm going to fail. Okay, I'll do it that way.
I think it's as simple as we're all units of one. We're each unique. We're all on our own journey, and we're all like building up our experience and our know-how. Sure. Now, I do think, maybe people that get somewhere earlier, somewhere it could be college, it could be first promotion, it could be buying a house, whatever it is. I think those are people that maybe were better at listening to those around them. And, I had mentors in my life, and, I think one of my mentors at one time probably kept me out of jail for homicide when I was running hot after a meeting. And, other mentors, like made things that were really big in my head, like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. And they're like, it's a blip. It's a day, it's a week, if you have a 30-year career ahead of you. But when you're in the moment, it's big. You don't have perspective. We have interns here at the company, and you talk to them and you realize, wow, a 20-year-old is a 20-year-old. They're learning things for the first time. They, it's what do I wear in the office? Like they don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing. Because we were all there, right? You see them do it and you think back, you're like, oh, wow, I remember when I learned that thing. And it's just nuts that they don't know it. And for the last 30 years, we have, right? In
some ways, the environment now, I think for a young person with aspirations, I think with the hybrid and remote, I actually think it's harder because, like sometimes you just being at home and remote, if that's your job, I look at some of the lessons I learned, they were just by being in, watching the person next to me struggle. I remember at one point, they said, Brennan, we want to put you in sales. I had no idea how to sell whatsoever, but I remember listening to this guy, Jeff, I sat next to, like listening to him on calls with clients and asking him, how do you prepare? If I were remote, I just wouldn't have had those learning experiences. So, one thing I tell young people in their careers is whether you can be remote or hybrid, go to the office. There's just stuff. And by the way, it's really tough getting the next promotion or next assignment when you're not known. And when you're remote, it's very easy to forget a young person, for that matter, anybody, when they're remote.
Yeah.
Versus,
Definitely.
hey, who's the guy that sits in the third row? He's a really hard worker. He's here all the time. Who's that?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the person that gets that little break. And it's just because they were there. They were known. One of my mentors called it the law of physical presence. If you want to play the big game, you got to show up.
Yeah. You can't play in the Super Bowl remotely.
But just think of that. Just the law of physical presence. Just show up. Like, it sounds easy, but sometimes it's not.
The hardest part of going to the gym is just going there.
There you go.
Right?